Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the workshop. In this video I'm going to be servicing this 30-hour grandfather clock, and if you remember from previous videos it has a problem with the striking mechanism. So this clock has a count wheel striking mechanism, and so I will attempt in this video to explain how that works and also show it in action, and when we're putting the clock back together go over the setup that you need to get the various gears in place so that it works correctly. So watch on in and let's go. So what we have here is the 30-hour grandfather clock. It strikes on the hour every hour, and to wind it you pull on the chain to wind it up. You'll notice though on the plate there are two keyholes. This is probably an off-the-shelf plate, face plate, but visitors from this distance would see these holes and probably think it was a more expensive key wound mechanism, so that's probably why it was the way it was. Just turning the clock around. A few things I noticed here on the back. First of all, the bell is actually attached from the inside of the plates, so I must remember when I'm reassembling to put the bell on first before I put the plates back together. So this is a count wheel mechanism, which was the traditional way of doing a strike on the older clocks. In latter years, towards the end of the 18th century, the rack and pinion striking action took over, more complex but had its advantages, and in the 1900s onwards really it took over from the count wheel mechanism. The other thing I noticed is that the going train and the strike chain, they're pretty much together, and on this clock the striking train of gears are all on the right hand side of the movement, looking from the front. Later on, the striking train, gear train on clocks was put on the left hand side, and so this shows that this was before conventions really took off. Right, the first thing we'll do is take the seating board off, and that is held on by a nut here. So if we undo this, this should now come off. And that was the hook. Surprisingly, it was only held on by one hook. Just put all the things together. Right, next I think we'll take the front plate off. Take the hands off, remove the split pin. washer, minute hand. Gently does it. A little spring clip. And now, and comes off. First, I think I'll take the bell off. The bell off. Pretty loose. Heavy bell. Just gives me better access to the pins. And there's an attachment there and two at the bottom. There. Oh, comes the quick look. Is there any manufacturer's marks? Nope. No clues there. Right, so it was an endless chain, so I had to prise open one of the links to split it. So now I can just take the chain away. Why am I making such a meal of this? There we go. One chain, no longer endless. Right then, let's try and explain the Countwheel mechanism. On the back plate we have the Countwheel. As you'll see from the diagram, it's divided into 78 sections. Why 78? Because from 1 to 12 o'clock there are 78 strikes. That is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus blah 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 up to 12 equals 78. And around the disc there are 12 slots. And you'll notice that the distance between the slots increases as you go from 1 through to 12. So the way it works, when the minute hand gets round to 12, ready to strike the hour, it lifts this lever here and the plate starts to revolve. And as it revolves, the lever sits on the outer rim as it goes round, and as it goes round, the hammer strikes the bell until the lever gets to the next slot, and when it goes down into that slot it stops the mechanism and the hammer stops striking. This isn't the only part of the striking mechanism. When the lever lifts and the wheel starts to rotate, if this was the only part of the mechanism, the movement would start to gather speed, because let's just think about it. The movement is driven by a heavy weight. I mean, that's probably 10 pounds or so there. So there's a lot of torque on the movement. It needs to have a fair bit of torque because it's got to turn all the gears, and there's also a fair bit of energy involved to strike the hammer. Nevertheless, once the lever lifts and starts to move around, this would start to gather speed, and so you would have a strike which got faster and faster as it gathered momentum. And so we need a way of being able to slow this down, and the way that happens is by using a hoop wheel. The hoop wheel has a brass ring around it with a slot, and there is a locking piece in that slot, and when the hour comes up and the lever lifts, it also lifts the locking piece out of the hoop wheel, and that releases the mechanism, and it starts to rotate round at the same speed as the hammer strike. And after one hammer strike it does one rotation, and the locking piece temporarily goes down into the slot on the hoop reel and holds the mechanism, and then it comes out again and goes round for the second strike, and it will continue to do that until this lever here goes back into the next slot on the Countwheel. So it's restricting the speed that the movement is working, but that's not enough, and so there is also a flywheel, or governor it's often called, which is attached to the mechanism, and as that starts to rotate during a strike, the air resistance keeps the speed down to a nice even strike. So that's how you get a nice even strike. And so it's the hoop wheel that actually controls the mechanism, and this here actually decides how many counts there are per hour. To make sure that everything works as it should, there is a warning wheel. Now you'll hear the warning wheel a couple of minutes before the hour. You'll hear a whir of cogs inside the movement, and that is the mechanism going into warning. And what that's essentially doing is there is a pin on the wheel which is released by this mechanism here when you get to just before the hour, and it actually sets the striking mechanism. In other words, the hoop wheel becomes free and it starts to rotate just for a second or two, and what that enables is for the levers to get out of the slots ready for the strike, and so it won't jam up when the strike actually happens. So the warning period is only for a couple of seconds, and it's just enough to be able to lift these levers in readiness for the strike to happen. And then the warning wheel stops the mechanism until the hour is struck, and then it releases, as we explained before, and then these levers can do their trick. So here's the main movement, all the pieces cleaned, and trying to get it all set up before we put the plate back on. You see here, this is the pinwheel, and as that rotates, the pins hit the hammer which caused the strike. This is the warning wheel here, and you see the pin on there, and the idea is when it goes into warning, this will go around until it hits the warning pin, which is about here, and ideally you want about half a turn of warning. And this is the hoop wheel here with the locking plate here, and it's currently in the slot of the hoop wheel. And the idea is when this goes into warning and this starts to turn around to the top, the hoop wheel will start to move, but we don't want the locking plate coming out of the hoop wheel before warning finishes, otherwise it will start chiming. So there's the movement back in the case. The miscounting strike mechanism was down to the fact that the movement needed a good clean. There's probably a lack of lubrication, which meant that you were getting missed strikes. And the trouble with the Countwheel mechanism is it's sequential, so you get one missed strike and then it's going to be out for the following hours. So the way to get around it, to get it back into action, is easy. You just lift one of the levers and get it to the right hour. I'll show you. It's saying 10:30 here at the moment, so if I just lift the lever once, see what it's saying. Half 9, so we just need to move it forward one more hour, so we just lift the lever again. So it's as simple as that. So the 30-hour clocks tended to have the Countwheel mechanism, but it was later replaced by the rack and pinion movement, which doesn't have this same problem. It will always strike whatever the hour is, according to the minute hand. So if there's enough interest when I get a clock in with the rack and pinion thing, I can perhaps show you how that works. Let us know in the comments and I'll be happy to do one for you. So thanks very much for watching, and also for the new subscribers, it's great to see the number increasing, and I hope to see you all in the next video. So bye.